Teeing it up. See how long and straight we can hit it here on the program. JD, good to have you on board. We thank you as always for taking some of your time to spend it with us here on the program, where intellectual anarchy is encouraged and nurtured for now. Your aggregator-in-chief scouring the world for the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. It's going to be a fun show today. Oh, boy, do we have some good stuff for you. Marcelo working the dials for us. Brad producing the program. Emails at the website, jerrydoyle.com. And the poll question up there for you today at the website. Politico reports that VP Joe Biden, as I refer to him in the Twitter post, Joe Biden seed, is traveling the country delivering the Democrat brand. I did that little thing with my fingers, brand, to their party loyalists. The question is, how would you describe the Dems' brand? I did a little thing with my fingers again. Is it the voice of the middle class? What are you shaking? You're waving that one off too, Marcelo? I know it's cheesy to do the finger thing with the quote
air quotes
brand.
Work great on radio.
Air quotes are so Depeche Mode. It's right up there with voguing and the Macarena. Nobody said the Dems' brand is the voice of the middle class. 7% said the Dems' brand is the voice of the victimized. 15% say the brand is the voice of the socialist. 65% say the Dems' brand is the voice of those addicted to dependency. And 13% saying all of the above. We'll take your answer there at the website or here at 800-876-4123. On the program where we like our flying a little turbulent, our women a little crazy. Poquito. What's the Spanish word for crazy, Marcelo?
Loco.
Poquito loco. And our politics a little messy. Poquito loco. Is that El Pollo Loco? Is that crazy chicken?
Yep.
Kind of like the Republican stance on Chick-fil-A. Kind of the same thing. Hey, way to go. All the Republicans are out there supporting the old Chick-fil-A is not gay crowd. Way to go. Helping Mitt Romney lose to Barack Obama in November, one Chick-fil-A sandwich at a time. It's like the GOP version of a stimulus program for chicken, because they want the GOPers to double up on their purchases of Chick-fil-A on August 1st, which means they won't buy it on the day before or the day after, but they'll double up on August 1st. And they'll go, see, it worked, which is the same crap that was being sold by this socialist administration in cash for clunkers, cash for caulkers, and any other way that they're trying to artificially manipulate something to say, see, it's working, but it's not. Working hard. Ron Paul in the news. Politico reports on Ron Paul's swan song. Ron Paul's swan song was the House vote on the bill to audit the Fed. Now, this was a vote that Ron Paul was trying to get done a long time ago when he was on the losing end of the vote, 414 to 1. Ron Paul said we should audit the Fed. Yesterday, the House decided to take up Ron Paul's swan song bill with 270 co-sponsors, and the bill was passed by, what was it, like 327 to 98 or something like that? Yeah, 327 to 98. But they say that the 77-year-old lawmaker's plans to retire at the end of the century could perhaps bring an end to an audit the Fed mentality in Congress. Now, the Senate, they said, sorry, no path forward in the Senate, kind of like the budget. What are we now, 1,185 days without a budget coming from a whorehouse Harry Reid in the Senate? Way to go, Harry. Democrats, like House Minority Whip, the not miracle whip Steny Hoyer, the Democrat from Maryland, argued that a full audit would politicize the Federal Reserve. He said the Federal Reserve, like every other central bank in the world, is independent, and Congress has rightly insulated the Fed from short-term political pressures. Now, who's holding it up in the Senate? That would be the Senate Majority Leader, whorehouse Harry Reid, the dim bulb from Searchlight, Nevada. But if you do a little searching, and it's not that hard to do, you can come to find out that back on January 23rd of 1995, the very same guy, whorehouse Harry Reid, who was a whore then, is a whore today, had something different to say then about auditing the Fed than he has to say today, where it's going nowhere in the United States Senate.
For years, I have sponsored legislation that would call for an audit of the Federal Reserve System.
Huh?
I offer that amendment every year. Every year, the legislation gets nowhere. I think it would be interesting to know about the Federal Reserve. I think we should audit the Federal Reserve. It's taxpayers' money that's being used there, but we don't do that. Senator Dorgan has spoke out on the secrecy of the Federal Reserve System. Even though there is no entity in the world that controls our lives more than the Federal Reserve System, his speeches go unnoticed, I'm sorry to say.
Apparently that speech went unnoticed, too, with the Democrat, not so miracle whip Steny Hoyer. For the Democrats, it just said, no, we need to let the Federal Reserve just do what it needs to do. Let it operate in private. But here we have Whorehouse Harry in 1995 talking about what the swan songer himself, Ron Paul, was talking about, has been talking about, and now they're voting on it, and it gets passed in the House. Now, I'm sure that even though Steny not-so-miracle whip Hoyer advised Democrats to not vote with Ron Paul on this, even though 97 did go along with what he had to say. But 89 Democrats voted yes. Now, why would they vote yes if Miracle Whip Steny said don't do it? Because Whorehouse Harry Reid said to the ones who did vote with Ron Paul, don't worry, you can be on record as voting to audit the Fed, but in the Senate, it'll never see the light of day, so you don't have to worry about ticking off the contributors that would be ticked off if you actually wanted to go forward and audit the Fed, because that would open up a little door into the mechanisms of the banker gangsters on Wall Street, and your connection to them, and how much money goes into your campaign. And we wouldn't want to tick those people off, would we? No. We certainly wouldn't want to do that. And speaking of the Federal Reserve, this is all you have to know about why Whorehouse Harry Reid doesn't want an audit of the Fed, and why the Republicans have been stalling for an audit of the Fed, and knowing that Whorehouse Harry Reid was going to block any action on an audit of the Fed, it gave cover to the Republicans, too, who didn't want to join with Ron Paul in doing what Harry Reid said in 95 we should have done. Imagine if we audited the Fed in 1995 and we wouldn't have had the $2.5 trillion of funny money injected into the system to save Wall Street. But words are just one thing. Music is something else. And when it comes to the Fed and the love song that they want to send to the banker gangsters on Wall Street and the crony capitalist, none other than Rick Astley has these words for the Fed and their criminal friends.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
Never, ever will we never. We will give you unlimited amounts of money, is why the Dow's up today, another 200 points in this very stable financial environment that we're in domestically and globally. It's because they got the wink, wink, nod, nod. Don't worry, we're going to open up the spigot one more time. Now, supposedly, Wall Street has learned its ways. And as we talked about a little bit yesterday, Sandy Weil, who was one of the big names on Wall Street, he was the ex-CEO of Citigroup. He was the guy that was responsible for the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which was a 60-year-old law that separated investment banking from commercial banking, and that the banks would get too big and they'd take too much risk, and we, the taxpayer, would be on the hook. And he said, we really need to look at breaking up these banks because they're too big. They're too big to regulate. And everybody said, well, why would Sandy Weil, who had a sign in his office where he was proudly known as the butcher of Glass-Steagall, why would he be calling for a breakup of the very same roll-ups of financial institutions that made him as much money as he got and others so wealthy? And it said it's because we have to restore the public trust in the banking system. We have to make sure that we get the confidence of the people back. And if we don't have confidence in our financial institutions, what do we have? What we really have here, folks, is never let a crisis go to waste. Because Sandy Weil is just another thug like all the other thugs out there that are supposedly doing something because it's in our best interest. The reality is, if you look at the capitalization of these firms and you look at what it is they have to do to stick with regulations that they have, Dodd-Frank imposes, and who knows whatever it is Congress is going to do to screw them up in the future. They looked at the valuations of the companies, and they said small to mid-sized banks trade at a market valuation of 1.5 times their book value. But if you look at the big firms, if you look at Wells and J.P. Morgan and Bank of America, and they're trading anywhere between 0.3 and 0.5% of book value. And if they broke them up after they absorbed all the other institutions with our taxpayer money, now they're huge. Let's make them small. What happens? The valuations that's on the books triples. They get to make more money even when they're supposedly breaking up the death grip that they have on the financial institutions. And here's the bottom line. Nothing's going to change. The only difference is, instead of having one guy put a gun to your head and ask for your money, now there'll be 3. And somehow you're going to feel better about the outcome.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
I told you it was going to be a fun show today. Brad Thorne, New York Times bestselling author, is going to join us at the bottom of this hour. Film and music critic, Reason Magazine, Kurt Loder, is going to join us in the next hour to review the movie The Watch. That's the one with, what's his name? Money from Swingers. What's his name? Vince Vaughn. And the guy who used to be fat, who's now skinny, who's going to be fat again?
Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill, that's right, him. He's also going to review Ruby Sparks and who the hell knows what else we're going to get to on the program today. If you want to be a part of it, toll free, 800-876-4123. The phone call is free. So is the data mining, courtesy of everyone. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
For years, I have sponsored legislation that would call for an audit of the Federal Reserve System.
This is the Jerry Doyle Show.